Jeremiah, who was a prophet, was a good chaver of mine. Never understood a single word he said, but we helped him to drink his yain. And we always have some mighty fine yain. Singing simchat le'olam, kol ha'yeladim now. Simchat to the dagim in the deep blue sea. Simchat to you and me.
Welcome to the Haftorah Plethora video podcast, where we might not bring joy to the world, but we do talk about prophets like Jeremiah. And this week, we are talking about Jeremiah. So how do you like that?
I like it a lot, but I like them all.
Me too, Rick. That's why we call it the Haftorah Plethora. The variety of Haftorah gives us an abundance of pleasure. I'm Larry Herman, sipping some very fine wine and talking Haftarah to my good chaver, Rick Muller, aka the King of Cannellation. And here are the latest pictures of my granddaughter, Millie Rose, aka Amalia Vered, who's smiling for her great-grandfather, Sony Denon.
Bet you're looking forward to getting that smile directed at you.
I sure am. And playing the episodes of Haftorah Plethora for her may just be the way to get that smile.
Lots of luck there, buddy. But it looks like you're making good progress reading to her. And do I see a small smile there?
Maybe.
But I doubt that this week's Haftorah will do much to make her smile.
That's true. This week's Haftarah lightly reflects the Parshat of Bechukotai in that it talks about blessings and curses, not the sort of stuff that would bring a smile to anyone's face. But there is a bit of positivity in the Haftarah. Rick, as you know better than anyone, the Torah reading of Bechukotai contains just 11 verses of blessing and then 36 long verses of curses.
That's true. And by tradition, we're supposed to read those curses all in one, very fast and almost whispered, sotto voce.
That's true. And not only that, Rick, also by tradition, the person getting the aliyah, where we read the curses, must be a person of upstanding character, so that no suspicion is cast that they were given the aliyah of the curses as a reflection on their integrity.
But what's all that got to do with the Haftorah?
Well, as I mentioned, the Haftorah from Jeremiah also includes blessings and curses. So I suppose that we should use the same criteria in selecting the person chanting the Haftorah, someone upstanding.
Well, I'm fairly ethical, but I can't stand up because the headphone cord will pull out of the hard drive. So I'll just sit here.
Well, you more than fit the bill, Rick. Fortunately, in the Haftarah, Jeremiah starts with the curses and ends with the blessings. And there are only 6 verses of curses, the first 6 verses of chapter 17. And they are less harsh than some of the terrible curses in the Parshat.
That's for sure. In fact, the first 2 verses aren't even curses at all.
And the curses that follow are quite general and tame. Spoiled treasure, forfeit of inheritance, making us slaves to our enemies.
Well, that one's pretty specific and awful.
Well, I'll grant you that. But then after telling us that those who turn away from the Lord will be like a bush in the desert in a barren land without inhabitant, we are immediately told that those who trust in God will be blessed, like a tree planted by waters with ever fresh leaves, yielding fruit even in a drought.
Short and sweet.
And then concluding with the message that God is the source of judgment, probing hearts of all, repaying every person according to their ways. And then in the final verse, the plea of Jeremiah on behalf of the people and on behalf of all of us.
Rifeini Adonai ve'erafei, Hoshieni ve'ivashea, kitilati ata.
Heal me, O Lord, and let me be healed. Save me and let me be saved, for you are my glory.
So you like this Haftorah for a change?
Yes, Rick, I do like this Haftorah. It gives a very positive message, which is very relieving after being overwhelmed by 36 long verses of curses in the Torah reading each one more depressing than the previous. I like the ending with blessings and then on a very hopeful note. And Rick, you always start and end on a hopeful note, at least trope-wise. What have you got for us this week?
Well, you know my method, always hunting for the rarest trope, figuring that the rarest trope would have the most special words. But this week, there's no pazers, no zarkaz or segols, no tilishot of either kind, not even any kadma v'azlaz.
No kadmava azlaz. Now that's a curse.
Wait, there's blessings. We start off with the Ger Shayim Dargat Tavir combination in the first words. Adonai, Uzi, Umauzi. Adonai is my strength and my stronghold. Nice ideas there. And there's another Dargat Tavir in chapter 17. So they echo each other. Verse 10, Ani Adonai, I am the Lord. Obviously a very important sentence. Who probes the heart and searches the mind of all men. This is the most important idea here, and it gets the rarest trope.
I agree. The message that God knows and that God carries out judgment is indeed the main message, even if we sometimes have difficulty believing that.
There you go again with your skepticism. But we have two more very important ideas. Verse 5 starts, Ko Amar Adonai, Arur HaGever Asher Yivtach Ba'adam. Thus says the Lord, the pronouncement, very dramatic. Cursed is he who trusts in man. The Munach Lagarme tips us off that this is significant. And then in verse 7, we have the famous verse, Baruch HaGever Asher Yivtach Ba'adonai V'haya Adonai Mivtacho. Blessed is the man, the person who trusts in the Lord, and the Lord becomes his or her trust. It starts with a munach zakev katon, very common, but it's easy for the people to understand that way.
And the rabbis like that verse so much that they put it into our liturgy twice. We recite it daily near the end of Uva L'Tzion, that prayer that we recite at the end of Shacharit, and also it's in the final paragraph of Birkat Hamazon, the grace after meals.
And that Munach Zakev Katon links to another one in verse 12, Kiseh Chavod, the throne of glory. So somebody who's blessed will be just like standing before the throne of glory and honor.
What a great trope drash on a Haftarah with relatively few rare or seemingly dramatic trope, Rick. I'm sure that you'll have a few more things to point out as we chant. I suggest a 4-part division this week. Let's start with the last 3 verses of chapter 16, which is the prologue, where Jeremiah proclaims that he will teach the sinners with the words of God. Then we'll turn to the first 6 verses of chapter 17, which are the mild curses, describing the sins and fruits of the guilty. The blessings or rewards for the righteous are in verses 7 and 8, which we'll read separately. And then we'll conclude with verses 9 through 14, which presents the final message that God cannot be deceived and that God is the source of all judgment.
Okay, here we go. So page 763, did we do the page yet? In the Eitz Chaim.
And the bracha.
Yes. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Adonai Uzi Umauzi Umnusi Beyom Tzara Elecha Goyim Yavo'u Me'afsei Haaretz V'yomru Ach Sheker Nachalu Avotenu Hevel Ve'en Bam Mo'il Hayaseh lo Adam Elohim Vehema lo Elohim Lachen Hineni Modiam Bapa'am Hazot Odiem et Yadi Bekvurati Veyadu Ki Shemi Adonai.
Very nice, Rick. That was good.
Thanks. Then
So
the
now
next section, it starts with the title. There's a title there, Chatat Yehuda, the guilt of Judah, with a Reviah. And then the next significant trope is in verse 3, Bamotecha, your shrines, your high places, your Bamot. That's where the bad things are happening that they have to stop doing. And then the next piece, 5, again, is the Reviah that announces Jeremiah's thing about the curses and the blessings. And right, that takes us up to verse 7. We want to pause there.
And I'll just give a bit of background. Let's remember that Jeremiah was living in the time of the destruction, just before and just after, of the destruction of the first temple. So he was seeing basically the destruction of the kingdom of Judah. And so when he talks about the Chatat Yehuda, he's trying to explain what the historical circumstance, what the reason for the historical circumstance was.
Yes. Yeah, and the commentary on the bottom, I'm noticing it. The commentator thinks that Jeremiah put some puns in there about their guilt and what's exactly on their altars. So you should read that too, to the audience there. Lots of good commentary here. Ready?
All set. Go ahead.
Chatat Yehuda Ketuva Beit Barzel Betziporen Shamir Charusha Aluach Libam Ulkarnot Mizbachotechem Kizkor B'nehem Mizbachotam Va'asherehem Al Eitz Ra'anan Al Givaot Hagvohot Harari Basadeh Chelcha Chol Otzrotecha Lavaz Eten Bamotecha Bechatat Bechol Gvulecha Bishamatata Uvecha Minachalatcha Asher natati lach V'ha'avaticha et oyevecha Va'aretz asher lo yadata Ki esh kidachtem be'api Ad olam tukad Ko amar Adonai Arur hagever Asher yiftach ba'adam V'sam basar zro Umin Adonai Yasur libo V'haya ke'ar ba'arava V'lo yir'eh ki yavoto V'shachan charerim b'midbar Eretz melecha v'lo teshev.
Very good. Well, we got through the curses, and now we're ready to look at those 2 verses of blessings.
Yes, and besides the Baruch HaGever, there's also the Reviah again in verse 8. So again, I think that echoes the guilt of Judah and all that, but they're going to come back as this tree, this eitz, which is always a positive image, on the water, al-mayim, the Reviah there. So I like that part of the echo of the trope.
So we should be blessed like a tree which is being nourished because it's by the water with very deep roots, standing strong.
Yes.
Nice blessing.
Yes. So those 2
should come to pass.
Yes. Baruch HaGever Asher Yivtach Badonai V'haya Adonai Mivtacho V'haya Ke'etz Shatul Amayim V'yuval Yishalach sharashav velo yir'eh ki yavo chom v'haya alehu ra'anan uvishnat batzoret lo yid'ag velo yamish me'asot peri.
I like that Renan. It should refresh us. The leaves are ever fresh. Nice image there.
Yes. Yep, there's some commentary there too. And then the last section, we've talked about the major trope already. I can point out that there's 3 words there that have Masoretic changes, because like in verse 10, the original had Kid Rachav without the Yud there, so you could read it Kid Racho if you made it an O on the end, so that would be wrong. So they fix the mistake and they give us the Yud there. The next verse, again, the missing Yud on Yamav, and verse 13, the original had a Yud there, Yisurai, I guess, but it should be Visurai, so I'll sing it like that.
So, Rick, I don't know if you know the answer to this question. Perhaps we should ask one of the rabbis when we have them on next. Why did the Masoretes make these corrections like this instead of simply correcting the Torah itself?
Because they, I think that the answer is they didn't feel like they could leave the original behind. Even if they thought it was a mistake, they felt they had to preserve it no matter what, because it was in the original manuscript that they had. So they fixed it, but they kept it.
Very interesting. I bet you could make an interesting novel or maybe even a film about this.
It could. As a driven leaf, I think has the roots of how the Talmud was put together, but to have a story about how they decided which letters to keep and which words and all that. Yeah,
As a driven leaf, if I'm not mistaken, is about Mishnaic times, so about the third century or so.
Yeah.
What was the time period of the Masoretes?
About 1,000. Well, Aaron ben Asher, the head of Masoretic, he was about 1,000, about the time of Rashi.
About the time, and where were they? Do you know?
In Tiberia, in Israel, in the north of Israel. Yeah.
Well, maybe one day we'll have to do a show about them.
Okay, sure.
But you had a comment you also want to make about the very last verse, I know.
Yeah, I just noticed it as we were going over it. The bottom of page 765, that when it was incorporated into the weekday Amidah, the singular in verse 14, Rifa'eni, was changed to be collective, Rifa'enu, and they were all made plural in that prayer.
So the blessing that we say in the weekday Amidah is Rifa'enu Adonai v'nerafei Hoshienu v'nivashea ki tehilatenu ata. And then we conclude the blessing with V'ha'aleh refuah shlema l'chol michotenu. And it's at that point that we can add individual mishaberachs for people who are sick. And we conclude with Ki el melech rofei v'naman v'rachaman aka baruch ata Adonai rofei cholei amo Yisrael. So we took the beginning of that bracha directly from this Haftarah. So we've got several pieces of liturgy that come out of this Haftarah.
Yeah, it's very nice.
So Rick, you want to take us home with the last 5 verses or 6 verses?
9 to 14.
Yes.
Akov halev mikol ve'anushu mi yeda'enu ani Adonai choker lev bochen klayot v'latet leish kidrachav kifri ma'alalav kore dagar v'lo yalad עושה אושר ולא במשפט, בחצי ימיו יעזבנו, ובאחריתו יהיה נבל. כיסא כבוד מרום מראשון, מקום מקדשנו. מקווה ישראל אדוני, כל עוזבך יבושו, וסורי בארץ יכתבו, כי עזבו מקור מים חיים את אדוני. רפאני אדוני ורפא, הושיעני ויבשע, כי תהילתי אתה.
Beautiful ending.
Thank
A
you.
beautiful Haftarah. So we want to thank again our technical advisor, our humor consultant, and our frogophile, Norm Gar, for everything he does. Don't forget to write to us with your thoughts and comments. Our emails are below. And we wish you all a Shabbat Shalom and a happy Yom Yerushalayim on Sunday night and Monday.
All blessings, no curses.
All blessings, no curses. Bye-bye.